We reward destruction. We incentivize catastrophe because profit matters more than people, more than truth, more than life, more than happiness or fulfillment. Fulfillment is not sold in a bottle, but we're told it is. Advertisements whisper to us all day on phones, billboards, TVs. Buy this and you'll be loved. Drink this and you'll belong. And we believe them. Even if we think we don't, it still goes into our subconscious because they use the oldest trick in the book, the bait and switch. They show us joy, family, laughter, nature. Then they flash a logo, a burger, a drink, a brand. And they say, this is what happiness looks like. And we buy again and again. Google made $237 billion in ad revenue in 1 year. Ads work. They shape us. From the age of 2, we know the brands. We're born into a machine that tells us buy, consume, be better, be more. Even artists, our poets, our dreamers, our creators are pulled in. They work in advertising, selling instead of inspiring, because that's where the money is. Creativity is sacred. It's how we change the world, but we've sold it for comfort, for clicks, for coin, and still we act as if we live in a meritocracy. That the rich are rich because they are better, smarter, harder working. So if you're poor, you must deserve it. Even children in mines, even mothers in shelters, even the broken and exploited. But wealth doesn't come from merit, it comes from ownership, from control, from passive income and compound growth, from rent, from interest, from exploitation. This is not a fair system, it never was, and it never will be until we value people more than profit. We think money makes us safe, that as long as we can pay the bills, fill the fridge, heat the home, we're secure, but the opposite is true. The more we depend on money, the more vulnerable we become, because real safety doesn't come from a number in a bank account. It comes from people, from relationships, from community. Money isolates us. It gives us the illusion of independence. I can buy what I need. And so we forget how to rely on each other. But true security is shared. It's not bought, it's built. And yet, our jobs, our cities, our culture are all designed to extract, to transact, to keep us apart. We've been sold an individualized dream at the expense of collective strength. But there is another way. We can remember what really matters. We can reject the bait of advertising, the empty promises of fulfillment through consumption. We can create lives full of purpose, connection and meaning right here, right now. We can build communities where love and labour are shared, not bought. Because love and friendship aren't byproducts of community, they are the foundation. And to do that, we have to be free. Free from dogma, free from ideology. A liberated mind doesn't cling to rigid beliefs, it dances with ideas. It sees systems as tools, not as truths. It recognises that we can change the rules because we invented them. Real freedom means this. We try things, we see what works, we let go of what doesn't, and we value people more than principles. But even as I say this, you hear a voice, don't you? The voice saying, it's not possible, it'll never work. That voice is the dogma. The ideology inside you clinging to what's familiar even when it hurts. We have two choices, keep suffering or change the beliefs. But be careful, escaping one dogma often leads straight into another. That's how capitalism gave us communism. How hope gave us hierarchy, how dreams gave us dictators. True liberation isn't replacing one rigid system with another. It's transcending the need for a single system. In a truly free world, some might choose communal living, others markets, and both could learn from each other. Reality is not ideology. Reality is people, nature, experience. Everything else is imagined. In the 1930s, B.F. Skinner gave rats drugged water. They drank it until they died. So we said, addiction is inevitable. But in 1980, Bruce Alexander built Rat Park, a space full of other rats, friends, stimulation, connection. There, the rats ignored the drug. Addiction wasn't about the drug, it was about life. Our society is Skinner's cage, and the antidepressants, they keep us numb, functional, quiet. In England alone, 86 million prescriptions last year, a 35% rise, and still, most suffering goes unspoken. Pills help some, yes, but they don't fix the why, they don't rebuild the broken bonds between us, they don't reconnect us to meaning or nature. But there is a way back. It begins with awareness. with meditation, with seeing clearly. A leaf falling, a breath rising, a raindrop on the skin. We start to notice what's real. We start to see what isn't. Money isn't real. Systems aren't real. They are stories made by minds, and when we believe in them too deeply, we forget who we are. We act as if we're separate from nature, from each other, from ourselves. We hurt others, we exploit, we dominate, and in doing so, we poison our own well, because we are nature. We're not above the rivers, or the forests, or the bees. We are part of the same flow, the same miracle. Meditation reveals this. We are not our thoughts, not our fears, not our roles, not our accounts. We are something deeper, something older, something true. And when we remember that, we stop clinging to ideologies. We stop obeying systems that harm. We stop believing in illusions like money, status, or superiority, and we start living right here, right now. When a flower wilts and dies, we don't blame the flower. We look at the soil, the light, the water, the environment. We ask, what does it need to thrive? But in our society, when a person breaks, when somebody spirals into poverty, addiction, despair, within our system we blame them. We say they didn't try hard enough. They made bad choices. We never think to question the environment. We treat our systems like they're sacred, but they're just shadows on the wall. If you planted a flower in darkness and insisted it didn't need the sun, it would die every time. Not because it was weak, but because the belief was wrong. And still you'd blame the flower. When the economy crashes, we do the same. We blame people, consumers, borrowers, protesters. We never blame capitalism itself. Never question the system that demands endless growth on a finite planet. Never ask, what if this entire structure was designed to fail? To change anything, truly change it, we have to free ourselves from the beliefs that hold it in place. Because if we don't, we'll keep rebuilding the same suffering in different costumes, like swapping masks on the same ghost. We must come back to what's real, to nature, to presence, to the rhythm of the ocean, the silence of the woods, to the moment. Because in that stillness, there are no ideologies, only life, only breath, only truth. In those moments we remember what we are, not roles, not incomes, not identities, but awareness. The tangled stories about money, about morality, about success, they start to loosen their grip. And we see clearly. Wanting money, using fossil fuels, feeling too broken to give, these are not moral failings. They are symptoms of a world that has forgotten how to care. Blaming ourselves is just another trap, another cage, another dark room for the flower. We've got to stop blaming the flower and start letting in the light. Before there were poets, there was no record of what it truly meant to be human. Poetry, art, creativity, they were the first voices to whisper our truth into the world. And even now, they remain the closest reflection of our souls, not because they generate wealth or boost economies, but because they allow us to express our wild, uncaged imaginations, to discover what it really means to be alive. I've seen it with my own eyes, children silent, afraid, then laughing freely in the theatre for the first time. That moment of light, of joy. How do we put a price on that? You don't. You can't. Creativity justifies itself. It doesn't need permission or justification. When we create, we are closest to the truth of who we are. Poetry, it doesn't just use language, it transforms it. It dances with the unspoken, the invisible. It speaks to the parts of us that don't have words. Like when Mary Oliver walks amongst the trees and feels saved by them. Or when Joseph Campbell describes poetry as a radiance, a shimmering glimpse of essence. That's the whatness, he says, and he's right. Because art isn't decoration, it's revelation. And when we lose that, when fear grips us, when society tightens its rule, when everything becomes a transaction, we wither. That's hell. Not some place with fire and demons. Hell is a life lived in fear, a life where we forget how to play, to imagine, to express. But art is heaven. When we cook a meal for someone we love, tell a story that moves a stranger to tears, when we create something simply because we must, that is when we are most alive, most free. We think we need to change the world, but no, we just need to connect with what is real right now. When we do, the world changes, because illusions can't survive the light of reality. Yes, suffering exists. Yes, the world can be cruel, but suffering isn't a curse, it's a compass. It points us towards meaning, towards healing. It cracks us open and shows us what matters. It reminds us of our strength. Even the pain in our bodies, aches, fatigue, illness is a message, a whisper saying, care for me. But we ignore it. We push it down. Why? To meet the demands of a system that doesn't even value us. Chomsky called modern work servitude. He's right. We sell ourselves to survive and we call it freedom, but it's not. When workers are urinating in vans to stay on schedule, that's not freedom, that's tyranny. And yet, the world is full of people who refuse to let that be the end of the story. Like Salgado, who returned to a dead forest and brought it back to life tree by tree. Or Jadav Payeng, who planted a forest for snakes and ended up saving an ecosystem. Or Shawarma, who lived without money for 20 years and never felt richer. Or Daniel Soleo, who survived a suicide attempt and said, no more ownership, no more lies, just the truth, the present, the reality. He let go of everything and found everything. And Yanis Varoufakis, who tried to fight the financial machine and, though he lost, left us with the blueprint for something better, a system not built on greed or power, but on fairness, humanity, community. You see, this isn't about rejecting one ideology for another. That's just more of the same. This is about liberation from systems, from dogmas, from fear. It's about stepping into the now, into reality, into connection. We all suffer, but we also create. And in that creation we find joy, truth, healing. We find each other. And that is where the revolution begins. That is where we begin.